Welcome, everyone, to Zoom into Books this afternoon. We have Dr. Raymond Keller with us. He is the foremost ufologist in the United States and really around the world. He's going to be with us discussing Pennsylvania, USA's UFO epicenter. He is the co-author of a brand new book that's just coming out this week. He's going to tell you all about it. So, Ray, take it away.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes, this is an exciting new book, and it's co-written with Fred Saluga, who is the Assistant State Director of the Mutual UFO Network in Pennsylvania. And for West Virginia, he's the State Director. And that's the largest civilian UFO group in the world. So I count it a great privilege that I could work with Fred on the book, teaming up to bring you all the UFO evidence and reports of extraterrestrial encounters occurring throughout Pennsylvania. Since World War II, including the Philadelphia experiment, all the way up to these contemporary times. So without any doubt, Pennsylvania is considered the hotspot for UFO activity in the United States, a genuine portal for flying saucers penetrating our planet's atmosphere from worlds beyond in outer space and even other dimensions and different periods of time travelers. So without any hesitation, I will go directly to the PowerPoint presentation for the book. Okay, there are so many reports coming out of Pennsylvania of varied experiences with close encounters with unidentified flying objects or unidentified anomalous phenomena, as it's now called, that we used Dr. J. Allen Hynek's classification of UFO encounters from Project Blue Book that he is the Air Force UFO investigation that he established back in 1972 to catalog all the different sightings that are appearing in the book. So, of course, close encounters of the first kind are just ordinary sightings of unidentified flying objects. The second kind are trace evidence of UFOs, angel's hair, crop circles, electrical or mechanical interference with vehicles and so forth. Close encounters of the third kind are those associated with an animated entity, of actually seeing an occupant of a flying saucer. And then close encounters of the fourth kind involve abductions of human beings. Close encounters of the fifth kind are cases of bilateral contact with extraterrestrials or ultradimensional entities. Close encounters of the sixth kind cause injury or death due to close proximity to a UFO, and close encounters of the seventh kind are decidedly the most controversial because these involve human and extraterrestrial or ultradimensionals mating and producing hybrid beings, as astounding as all that may seem. So we begin with the Philadelphia experiment. This took place on the 28th of October, 1943, experimenting with shielding ships at sea from radar detection, but it actually pushed certain members of the crew into a trip across another dimension or into another timeline, crossing the space-time continuum. And so I go into all the details in that book of what was called Project Rainbow. So not only did it cloak the ship from radar, it made it invisible and and pushed it literally out of our own reality. And then moving up to 1959, also in Philadelphia, this was in July of 1949, Philadelphia's skies were peppered with reports of flying saucers. Dully lighted plates or discs is how they described them in the newspapers at that time. Moving up to 1952 is a very interesting incident. There was an 8-year-old boy and his younger brother that climbed up a hill to a rock-strewn mesa more than an acre in length along the southern perimeter of their land, their acreage in Litchfield, Pennsylvania, whereupon they caught sight of 2 hovering craft which resembled jets that came in for a landing. The older boy explained that we could also see the pilots that had gotten out of their respective crafts for a few minutes to check out their jets, and they had on what appeared to be oxygen masks. As soon as the pilots got back on board the jets, they took off vertically, like a Harrier jump jet, and then turned about, heading in a westerly direction. This was in 1952. So, what happened? What happened here? Was it some kind of top secret aircraft, or did Harrier jump jets from the future jump back through the time barrier? So very, very interesting story. There's a pop culture reference to this incident. Those of you who might still remember, might still be old enough, I remember it. American International Pictures, they did a lot of sci-fi movies back in the day. And they had a movie called Beyond the Time Barrier, where a United States Air Force pilot ended up landing his jet 100 years into an apocalyptic future. And thinking back, I wondered if, hey, that incident in Litchfield, if that was the inspiration for that movie. Then there was flying saucers as living entities, actual entities. These are from my own Venus files. And the photos on the right were taken by contactee Howard Menger on the afternoon of the 8th of September, 1958 in Pennsylvania's Blue Mountains in the eastern part of the state. And this is 1958. It's in Franklin County. And his wife, Connie Menger, published the photos in the 1959 issue of Fantastic Universe, science fact and fiction magazine, and explained that these were not physical objects, but appeared to be some kind of living entities, some kind of protoplasmic type of entities that were just in a disc shape, and a very unusual report. And it's interesting because when our astronauts and Soviet astronauts, Russian astronauts have been in space, they've reported similar type phenomena, and one Russian astronaut described it as a kind of angelic type of being, like morphing into like the appearance of an angel near the International Space Station. So a lot of very, very, really cool stuff in this book. Also, the Men in Black, another variation in UFO experiences. This one was associated with an abduction. And this was taking a security camera in a hotel and trying to silence one of the UFO witnesses and abduction in an abduction case. There was psychologists that looked at the case as well as others. They said that 70% of the population experiences hypnagogic hallucinations. Perhaps this might explain some alien abductions. But hypnagogic state occurs between the time, the 10 to 15 minutes between still being asleep and then fully waking up. And a lot of people have bad dreams that actually manifest in this hypnagogic state as a literal hallucination. So they're not really sure if they're woken up or not, and so they can see ghosts and scary entities like alien abductors and so forth. So it's all explained in the book. Then we have motherships and scout craft. There was a large cigar-shaped craft like this one over Philadelphia on Sunday, the 26th of August, 1962, and it was seen to dispense these tinier saucers, a kind of scout ship or reconnaissance craft. Then we have the famous Kecksburg meteor crash of 1965. And here we see that this was on the right. What you see is a Soviet Cosmos probe, space probe. And then on the left is like an artist's conception of what it looked like when it was carried off by the Air Force, taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And Fred and I looked into this very closely and determined that the writing that was reported along the bottom, all the people that saw it had a glimpse of it before it was carted off, said that there was this strange kind of writing, and we surmised that it must be the Cyrillic Russian alphabet. And the Russians did launch a failed space probe. It was supposed to go to Venus, but it broke up in the atmosphere on the one day earlier, and half of it fell down in Canada, like the shielding, and the other half came down in Kecksburg. So that's what we think it was. So that the National Reconnaissance Office, which would be responsible for collecting artifacts from crashed Soviet aircraft and spacecraft, would have been the ones that were out there at Kecksburg. Then back to Philadelphia again. This woman saw, along with dozens of other people, flying saucers hovering over Philadelphia. And this was in April of 1966, to the end of the month. And this woman became hysterical and thought it was an omen for the end of the world. And remember that REM song, "It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine." So at least it was the end of the world as this lady knew it. Then we have Dr. Berthold Erich Schwartz, and he investigated 4 cases of UFOs that were along, 2 of them were along the eastern border of Pennsylvania on the New Jersey side, and 2 were on the Pennsylvania side, and did extensive investigations into it, and concluded that that UFOs were essentially real, that they were definitely physical phenomena. They were much more than some kind of mental aberration, which is what most psychiatrists and psychologists were thinking up to that time. So you could read about his findings in the book. One of the cases that he looked at involved Richard Mart's encounter with a UFO in a rural Pennsylvania road in 1966, and in his pickup truck. And it's so reminiscent of the scene with Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind that I was wondering if by any chance it wasn't the inspiration for what later appeared in the movie. So if you encounter a UFO, keep your distance. Pentagon doctors have warned that not all UFO encounters are going to be happy ones. And Dr. Schwartz investigated one UFO case where an individual was seriously burned. Another case that he investigated was up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and we found many, many other sightings around the Erie, Pennsylvania area. But one of particular interest took place a little to the west of the city on Lake Erie shore at Presque Isle, where this dark, shadowy, featureless creature scared a woman and her child and a friend that were driving out there out of their wits. And this is her drawing of what the creature looked like. So also off of Lake Erie, many USOs are sighted. These are kind of like flying subs, unidentified submarine objects. There are many reports indicating that perhaps there's a saucer nest in the area, or even an undersea base, alien base under the waters of Lake Erie. The Horse Orchard Ghost was involving a couple that was out um, sharing some intimate moments out in the woods, and an apple orchard, when they encountered a mass of spheres that surrounded them. They felt that they were being observed by these spheres. This is near Lebanon, Pennsylvania, and they were very close to them at the level of the car's hood where they were parked. In 1973, I call it the patriotic flying saucer flap, because there were UFOs seen all over throughout March of 1973, throughout the skies of Pennsylvania, and they were flashing red, white, and blue lights. During the evening of September 20th in March of 1973, two policemen were called out to a rest home, seniors residence in the Chestnut Towers apartments in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. And they also saw the UFOs, and it reminded me of another cultural reference of the elderly residents in the Florida retirement community that were preparing to board a flying saucer bound for extended lifetimes in the Antares star sector in the movie Cocoon that was in 1985. According to experts of the Mutual UFO Network, spherical UFOs are more frequently sighted than traditional flying saucers. And residents of Windsor Township in York County witnessed the large glowing sphere hovering over their homes on the morning of 12 March of 1973. March of 73 was a busy time for people in Pennsylvania as far as UFO sightings goes. Then it was in March of 1977 that a PA state trooper was outside of Punxsutawney, sighted a volleyball-sized light, gauged as if held at arm's length, that was pacing his vehicle. He had gone out to this area in search of a driver, a woman who reported being chased by a UFO. Then there was an interesting case in Freeland in Luzerne County, where a couple witnessed, based on their detailed report, the takeoff of what seemed to be a scout ship that they estimated to be some 50 feet in diameter on the other side of Highland Mountain in Sandy Valley. That was back on Friday, the 10th of April of 1981. This is Stan Gordon. He's the director of the Pennsylvania Center for UFO Research at his home in Greensburg. And he's received over the years hundreds of reports of UFOs. But on the night of the 16th of April of 1981, he received a call from the Fairchance Borough in Fayette County in southwest Pennsylvania, where UFOs were witnessed by Fairchance police officers. Also, a phenomena frequently associated with UFOs is angel's hair, but in this case in Pennsylvania, on the 4th of May, 1981, these spherical, smaller type saucers were dropping down what they called fuzzies. They described them as fuzzies. But in France and other places where this phenomena has occurred, they have generally referred to it as angel's hair. Then later on in 1982, there was a case of policemen in Neshannock Township and Shenango Township chasing UFOs, or UFOs chasing them first and then them chasing the UFOs. That was also in March. It seems to be March is the big month for UFO sightings, no matter what year. I don't know what's going on with that. That was the 23rd of March, 1982. Then there was a UFO club, one of the first in Pennsylvania and central New Jersey, a UFO study group. And it caused quite a controversy because this was when the book came out by Eric von Daniken, talking about the ancient aliens. This is one of the first speculations about ancient aliens and associating them with religious manifestations. So it caused quite a controversy in the local press. This is Pat Marcatilio of Hamilton, New Jersey, who became the director of the Central New Jersey, Pennsylvania UFO Study Group. He kind of calmed the controversy down because he said it's really pointless to talk about cases that happened centuries ago, or even 2 millennia ago or more, because any of the trace evidence is is long gone. So he said the organization should get back on track and investigating substantial research into contemporary sightings. So he took the heat off of these organizations, and as a vote of thanks, they elected him to be their director of the UFO group. Pat talked about different types of aliens that one could encounter, and not just humanoids, that conditions on other planets would involve alternate paths of evolutionary development for sentient beings. And he pointed out that many of the extraterrestrials that have been cited in close encounters of the third kind and higher seem to be non-humanoid. You have mantids, lizards, even robotic type creatures like these little grays, allegedly from Zeta Reticuli. Now, we had a flying saucer flap over Franklin County in 1996. That was in March, again. And one of the sightings involved at that time had a UFO that appeared to be coming down for a landing, and had these spindly like spider legs coming from under the underside of the craft. And that was a announcer from a local radio station that's reported that. Then in 2009, all over Allegheny County, these triangular objects were being seen. And many ufologists maintain that the majority of triangular unidentified aerial phenomena can be explained in the context of experimental top secret advanced military aerospace vehicles. And then in 2017, we had extraterrestrial visitors to Mercer County. And this was at a presentation of one of my books. And that was very exciting because it also occurred on the 70th anniversary of Kenneth Arnold's sighting some 70 years prior. And one of the ladies that showed up there gave me a volume containing all of her notes and artwork and everything about contact with extraterrestrials. She was originally from Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and it's all in one of my books called Lady Columba Venus Revelations, also published by Headline Books. And then I looked at ancillary aspects of ufology beside the UFO sightings. Then we have one of the early applications of computer technology and computer science to the cataloging of UFO reports that took place by this young techie, Gary Metzler of Latrobe, Pennsylvania, back in 1989, and look into the methodology that he used. He lived up in the Chestnut Ridge area in southwestern Pennsylvania, where there's always a plethora of UFO and even alien occupant reports, and many, many other kinds of mysterious phenomena there. And Metzler dedicated himself to collecting and cataloging hundreds of these reports. Then in November of last year, I went to the Stairway to the Stars at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. And there were many UFO experiencers there on a special panel chaired by Alexis Brooks, who's a famous radio announcer. And this was being filmed by the Gaia Television Network. And basically, these speakers said that the disclosure is taking place at three levels: the government, Hollywood, and personal. And they explain the difference between UAPs and UFOs. UAP is the new term, replacing UFOs, and it's used in more scientific research and formal discussion. And Hollywood is a soft disclosure. Hollywood has been preparing us all along for the eventual acceptance of the presence of extraterrestrials among us. And the personal disclosure is much more significant than the government disclosure, because before the congressional hearings on the 25th of June in 2021, a national poll was taken that revealed that 80% of Americans believed in the existence of UFOs, 50% have seen them, and another 15% have actually communicated with extraterrestrials or their ultra-dimensional entities at various levels of contact, including telepathic. So what I like what Alexis Brooks had to say, she said that the ultimate disclosure by the government as to the existence of UFOs may only come as an acknowledging afterthought of the existence and presence of extraterrestrials among us. So there's much, much more in the exciting book, and I hope that that you will contact Headline Books and get yourself a copy, because it just hot off the press. I just had the mailman just delivered my author's copies to me.
Raymond, that's a lot of information. It's an excellent book. I can tell people that. I'm the publisher. Why do you think, I know in West Virginia, through research over the years, that November seems to be the month that has the highest UFO sightings, particularly southern West Virginia. So why do you think Pennsylvania had, is it that unusual, or do you think there's similar states with similar sightings?
Oh yeah, oh yes. I think but I think Pennsylvania might be, because there's more sightings there in Pennsylvania, is because there are electromagnetic anomalies due to high concentration of iron ore under the ground. And there's people that have noticed that in these same areas where they could be driving and their car might stall out, and different electromagnetic interference. These are also areas where there's an intensive amount of UFO activity. And my theory is that it might be because of a UFO portal. That's why I gave it the book the name UFO Portal.
Well, it's well named. So I'm really reaching here. It makes sense about the iron deposits in Pennsylvania because of the steel mills, and that's the industry there.
Yeah.
What about Project HARP?
Oh, okay. This is a high altitude weather control project that's focused up in Alaska, and and it may also be a UFO magnet, because ever since the late 1940s, after World War II, UFOs have been seen in great numbers over these areas. So anything with like Tesla said, anything with frequency and vibration is definitely associated with metaphysical, paranormal phenomena and events. So I wouldn't put it past that HARP had something to do with it, as well as the CERN over in Switzerland. We don't know what kind of portal we opened up, and who or what should I say is coming through it.
Well, if Hollywood is right, we have big surprises coming. That's for
Yes.
sure. Ray, what's your next project that you're working on?
Well, I'm working on I don't want to really give it away yet, but and it's going to it's definitely going to involve extraterrestrial entities. That's all I could say at this time.
All right. Well, thank you, Ray, so much for coming on. I've posted all the links in the Facebook comments. This video will be available on the Zoom Into Books Facebook page. You can watch it anytime. In the coming weeks, it will also be available on the Zoom Into Books YouTube channel. So please subscribe. You can see all the new videos as they're coming out. And there's several Zoom Into Books episodes with Dr. Keller that concern his Venus Rising series, which are all available on Amazon and at headlinebooks.com and other bookstores. So, Ray, thank you so much for coming. We look forward, maybe you and Fred can come back together and let us know what's going on in Pennsylvania in the coming months.
Oh, thank you, Kathy, and I look forward to seeing any any interested individuals coming to the Mutual UFO Network conference at Westmoreland Community College in Youngwood, Pennsylvania. I think it's like outside of Greensburg on April the 6th. Fred and I will be talking more about UFOs over Pennsylvania.
That's great. I hope everybody makes that. If not, come back to Zoom into Books and see what you can find out. Thank you so much, Raymond. Have a great weekend.
Thank you all. Thank you, Kathy, and keep watching the skies.